Welcome back. You are in for a treat today because today we are giving grandma's old advice an easy button upgrade for corporate communication. That means you will be able to take this message that has been ingrained in you for decades, probably, and turn it into something that is actually useful for building trust and getting results. So, what am I talking about here? Now, do you ever have those moments where you know exactly what you want to say? And you know that you absolutely cannot say them, right? So your first instinct is to A, make sure you're on mute, B, maybe lock your video, and then furrow your brow and just think, what is even happening? What are they thinking making that suggestion? Are they joking me? You know that you can't actually say any of that. You know that you can't tell them to step out of the meeting and just do their job. And so what do? Well, you follow that age old advice from your grandmother that said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Now, I am going to walk you through how to transform this communication. But if you really want the easy button, if you just want to bypass all of the why and the impacts of your communication, then I want you to just scroll down, get the link in the show notes that will take you to the communication translator so that you can turn those thoughts, those OMG moments where you're having to control your face and your voice, and then you will be able to really get out of jail free on some of those really sticky communication points. Now, if you are someone who wants to be able to do this on the fly, then I would encourage you to stick around so we can walk through why that old wisdom from your grandma doesn't work and what you should do instead. So, picture this: you are in the meeting with all of your peers. You're trying to come up with a solution to a massive problem. And we are talking not something small. We're talking about something that you could lose customers and staff if you don't get it right. This big level problem, big fire, not smolders. Your coworker shares some sort of idea that just makes the rest of the room go quiet. No one wants to tell them that their idea is bad. No one wants to tell them that this sounds really dumb. You want to be a team player and you don't want to be the bad guy. So you just sit there silently and hope that somebody else is going to call them out for it. You want to follow that advice from your grandma, right? Now, you sit in silence, you try hard not to make direct eye contact with them, and you are holding out that someone is going to say something. You go with this don't say anything at all piece, right? Now, what happens? They assume that you agree with them. They assume that because you didn't have anything to say, that that is credence for them to continue on and keep going with this idea and the logistics of how they're going to make it work. When you are silent, you imply agreement. And with that first bad idea that's thrown out there, you never get any further. So here's the truth: getting to the best solution takes multiple views, it takes multiple potential solutions and vantage points. Meanings that you have to understand the impacts of each idea to know how to get to the right one. And that really means that you can be the person who can take the problem from a bad idea, transform the angle you look at it through, and be the linchpin to getting to the solution that feels like it was custom made for your situation. I had a client that this had just happened to. We were talking about it just last week, and she was supervising the nursing staff in an assisted living facility, and they needed more communication at shift change. She had nurses that were coming in to the facility, and they were wasting so much time trying to get up to speed on all of the details, right? So they would come in for their shift, they would have to make sure that all of the call buttons were working properly. They would have to make sure that all of the medications that were supposed to have been dispensed had been. When were the next medications going to be dispensed? And what did they need to do in the meantime? In some cases, they actually had to spend a half hour to an hour looking for a patient if they weren't in their room at the start of their shift. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the valuable time that these nurses, these medical professionals were wasting because they didn't know that their patients had gone to the rec hall or were at lunch, right? The first solution that was thrown out there was to ask nurses to either come in early or stay a little bit late so that they could have a conversation about what happened. Now, my client could see that from several angles, this just wasn't going to work, right? There was no clear direction in that. Were you asking people to work without pay? Which one was going to come in? Was every nurse supposed to get there early so that they could account for the shift change? Or were they supposed to stay late so they could talk to the people who got there on time? Who was actually responsible for making sure that the information passed from one shift to the other? And how were they going to make sure that all of the information was communicated? Do we even know what all of the information is? When you speak up about these kind of gaps, you are able to transform the bad idea into something that would have the patients feeling cared for and the nurses feeling equipped and empowered as they started their shifts. And that is exactly what that client was able to do. She created a solution that could answer all of those questions because she had the ability to speak up and not stay silent when she heard that initial bad idea. And a solution that would benefit your customers and the staff that is supporting them is what you would want too, right? Now, that one is one that in the corporate world, we know in our heads that we shouldn't stay silent when we hear a bad idea. It can be hard to speak up, but we know that we're not supposed to stay silent. So we try to stay away from this one. But it can get really trapping to get into the nice category because that first part of your grandma's advice, for women especially, we take it so much to heart. That's especially true when we need to get outside the box ideas. We want to be kind to people. We want to be encouraging to people. We want to be supportive of the different ideas that come up. And so when someone goes a little too far outside of the box, we don't want to rein them back in too strongly. We want to encourage them to keep going, and it makes us just get muddled. So, another client wanted to increase engagement over the summer, and her team came up with some solutions. One of which was to work part time. They thought that would be a great way to increase engagement would be to just not work every day. And she didn't want to come across bossy or any other form of a B word that could be portrayed for a woman in leadership. And so she said something sweet like, "Well, that might work. Do we have any other ideas?" Now, she knew exactly what she was saying, right? What she was saying was, "We are absolutely not going to do that. Please, someone come up with something better. Someone give me another idea really quick." And then, like many people, she patted herself on the back for saying it nicely, except that she didn't say, "We're not doing that." She didn't say, "We need different ideas because that one isn't going to work." She was passive aggressive about the option that she threw out there. Passive aggression is not a strong foundation for leadership. But do you know what is? Clear and direct communication. You can acknowledge a point that you agree with when you're redirecting people. You can point them to an entirely new solution and do it in a way that respects the perspective that they had with that original idea, even if it wasn't very good. So the next time someone suggests this part time schedule to increase engagement, you can support their focus on work life balance and ask for solutions that also support customer experience. After all, Brene Brown was absolutely right when she said clear is kind. And that is the point that I want you to take away here. That is our upgrade. We are going from if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all, to clear is kind. Full sentence, full stop. That is where you get the nice part of this, right? We are going to be so kind in how we say it. We are not attacking people. We are not belittling people. We are not telling them that that was a dumb idea. We are being kind and respectful in how we say it. But if you can't be clear, then there isn't anything to say. But what can you do instead? If you don't have anything to say, getting curious is the bridge. I should have written that in a brighter color. Curiosity is the bridge that you need. There, we'll do that. When you are curious, you allow people to explain how they got there. You allow people to see those gaps, like they did in that assisted living facility, so that they can be the hero, right? You can build up their self esteem to actually solve the problem by showing them in a clear and kind way that there are gaps to fill. Now, the trouble in these OMG, did he really just say that moments is that you want a fix. You want something quick. And most leaders want to just take control and pretend that that idea never came up. That's why we use this nice or nothing advice, right? But it leads you to taking on that mental load yourself. I have to come up with a better idea. I have to poke all of the holes. I have to be responsible to carrying this across this finish line. That doesn't have to be you. You can, in these awkward situations, influence through your communication. And that key is the curiosity. You can take that awkward silence and empower them to be accountable for every view of the problem themselves without taking on that burden yourself. You can take that nicely worded side eye comment and actually increase trust on the team by letting them hold the keys to that decision. Empowered employees who think strategically and get it done as a team is what you really want, right? You want a team that can actually function without you. That's the sign of a capable and strong leader. I will admit that it takes time to master influential communication. It takes time to master any skill. And my clients, some of them spend months learning to be incredibly dynamic so that they can dance with their employees and with their bosses to be curious at the highest levels. But you can put a few just get out of jail free cards in your pocket, right? You can be ready for some of those sticky conversations and know what to say so you're not clamming up and you're not doing that side eye moment. I took the 7 most common leadership thoughts, the ones that you would never say out loud, and just hope you have your camera off so that you don't have to explain your face. And I translated them for you. You can go below and click to get your communication translator so you know what to say and what not to in any of those situations. You can get the strategic questions that develop trust, resilience, and critical thinking on your team through doing the work that you assigned them in the first place without you having to take it back. And we can thank Grandma for her help along the way and level it up so that we have a clear and kind delivery.